You feel deep in your chest an echo that does not quiet, the sensation that true love has always slipped through your fingers, like fine sand sliding through your hands. It's as if, in every encounter, something broke even before it began, leaving scars of unrequited desire. You waited for glances, you waited for words, you longed for promises that never came. And then you learned to control every gesture, every smile, as if it were possible to mold someone's heart in your own image. But what Jung teaches us is that love is not manufactured. It reveals itself. It is a mirror that reflects not what we want to be, but what we already are in our forgotten essence. If this kind of reflection truly touches you, perhaps this is your place. Consider subscribing to the channel. Carl Jung said, "What we deny in ourselves appears in the other as destiny." Therefore, true love is not created, it is recognized. What awakens love in a man is not who you pretend to be, but what you symbolize for, his unconscious. The desire to make a man fall in love often springs from an invisible wound, the fear of being forgotten, replaced, not chosen. Erich Fromm taught that real love is born of the gift of oneself with consciousness, not of emotional dependence. This video will reveal the archetypal forces and symbolic gestures that, when embodied, make a man fall in love, not because he was convinced, but because he was touched in the soul. Imagine a soft whisper coming from within you, recalling a profound truth. You no longer need performance or acting. You already carry in every free gesture the symbol that awakens the other. There are images and wounds in your unconscious that seek to be recognized, celebrated, and healed. It is in them that the meeting between two destinies that, despite being distinct, reflect each other resides. Feeling this echo is to disarm the armor of control and allow for an instant the mystery to speak louder than strategy. You carry winter in your soul, perhaps on sunny days with memories of unfulfilled promises, but within this shadow sleeps a vital pulse, a feminine power that does not beg, that does not bend, but summons. It summons not through artifice, but by the strength of a whole being stripped of masks. It is this pulse that we will awaken now, revealing how love, before being given or received, needs to be recognized in its archetypal meaning. And when this happens, nothing seems the same. The simple glance gains density, silence becomes a bridge, and the encounter ceases to be casual. Allow yourself to feel this gentle tension between the fear of showing yourself whole and the call to inner freedom. Breathe deeply, without hurry, and welcome every thought that arises. Here, there is no place for empty formulas, only for the truth that pulses within you. What we are building is no longer a seduction manual, but a rescue ritual, the rescue of your voice, of your value, and of your symbolic power. Now that we have laid the foundations, the love that awakens is not created by effort, but flourishes when you recognize yourself. The journey begins when you accept looking within, without shame, without guilt. It is in that space, between the child who begs for attention and the woman who recognizes herself whole, that the miracle happens. Breathe slowly and prepare yourself. Next, we will explore the first wound, the one that insists on telling you that you were never chosen, and discover how, by understanding that pain, you inaugurate a new way of loving. The woman who wishes to be loved at any cost often carries the trauma of having been ignored in childhood or emotionally replaced. She tries to make someone fall in love, as if she were proving that this time she deserves to stay. It is the wounded child who in the woman's body begs for belonging. The risk, falling in love with someone who triggers the same pattern of indifference. Before making someone fall in love, it is necessary to perceive who in you is trying not to be rejected again. When this pattern repeats, it becomes clear that the heart is not seeking only affection, but the repair of an ancestral wound. You feel it in your chest, don't you? There is a void that vibrates like a solitary drum, calling for someone to stay. Each attempt to match the other's desire carries the weight of a child who, at home, did not receive the welcoming gaze she silently pleaded for. And then, on the stage of relationships, you become actress and audience at the same time. You act, you watch reactions, you offer smiles decorated with hope. This rehearsal, however, brings with it the risk of mirroring the old pain. By giving too much, as if each gesture carried a seal of worthiness, you face again the echo of indifference. It's as if someone repeated without words the feeling of not having been chosen, and this time, within your own body, you relive the abandonment. You loved with all your being, and you were left in the almost. Allow yourself now to perceive the silent dance between the present woman and the child who begs for validation. Observe the moment your chest tightens, when his response is delayed or when, upon receiving a compliment, you find yourself doubting. This point of tension is revealing. It shows exactly where the fragment that seeks to be welcomed resides. Perhaps you carry, in your restrained gaze, the ancient plea of one who never received a definitive "you matter." When we recognize ourselves in this mirror, we can choose another way to breathe. The pain, however deep, ceases to command our actions. You stop trying to make someone fall in love and instead turn your gaze inward. Ask yourself, what memory is this body repeating? What silent voice now needs your conscious care? It is here at this turning point that a space of compassion opens. You realize that the urgency of love was not about the other, but about your own soul, thirsty for belonging. And, upon recognizing this, a new gesture arises, the gesture of welcoming the inner child, of placing a friendly hand on the shoulder of that forgotten part. If this resonated with you in some way, leave a like. It shows that these conversations are necessary. There is freedom in distinguishing the wound from the remedy. Accepting that you do not need to prove your worth by his reaction is an act of transformative courage. When the woman who inhabits your body understands the child who inhabits your past, a gentle strength is born, one that does not beg but invites. And it is from this place of wholeness that genuine love can emerge, not as a repair rehearsal, but as the harmony of two destinies ready to recognize each other. Breathe deeply and accompany this inner presence. It is the beginning of everything, because by honoring who you were, you make room for the love that was always waiting to bloom. The archetype of the woman who awakens, not the one who conquers, but the one who activates his unconscious. Jung calls the living anima the woman who does not please but reveals. She is the one who makes the man access feelings he cannot name, but longs to inhabit. This woman is not concerned with being the best, but with being whole. Love is born in the masculine when he recognizes in her something that was missing within him, and that she activates effortlessly. She is symbol, not function, and therefore she leaves a mark. There is a silent force in the woman who awakens. She does not chase glances, but inhabits a space where the gaze finds an echo. Instead of seeking approval, she remains whole, offering the other the subtle invitation to perceive what was hidden in himself. You feel it in the air, like an unexpected aroma that perfumes the environment. It is the presence that does not plead, but summons, and upon recognizing it, the masculine disarms. He realizes that there is something deeper there, something that does not fit into simple words. When Jung spoke of the living anima, he referred to this feminine aspect that lives in the masculine unconscious as a principle of revelation. She does not please to be accepted, but shows herself to be recognized. She does not reveal all her layers at once. Instead, she offers scraps of mystery, fragments of soul, moments that, like mirrors, reflect internal desires and cravings. In the silence of the encounter, the man hears the pulsation of these fragments and suddenly perceives a vibration that transcends physical attraction, a primitive call to inhabit the sensory world of genuine affection. In each of your gestures, there is symbolism that speaks directly to the psyche. A lingering look, a restrained smile, the way you let a breeze of possibilities hover over the conversation. These gestures do not seek immediate results, but plant seeds, and the seed germinates within him as a dormant memory. The memory of a love that is not defined by tasks or goals, but by archetypal presence. You are not a function, you are a symbol, a living image that touches the deepest part of the being. The fullness of this woman does not come from being the best, but from being whole, with flaws, fears, and her own lights. When you accept every fragment of yourself, even the parts you once felt ashamed to show, you open doors for the other to do the same. It is a dance of reflections. The man, upon perceiving your integrity, feels something awaken within him that had always been dormant. He finds in your wholeness the spark of a desire he did not know how to name. It is in this shared space that love transcends the ephemeral and begins to inhabit the story of both. There is no heresy in this proposal, only the courage to exist authentically. In the silence of the encounter, this archetype causes the masculine to access undefinable emotions, sweet melancholy, yearning for belonging, desire for care that is not confusion. These emotions, once veiled, find in you a channel to manifest, and when they manifest, they leave an indelible mark on his affective memory, not by strategy, but by resonance with what he himself denied, lost, or forgot along the way. You can feel an almost sacred delicacy in this way of being. At the same time that the mystery reveals itself, it retreats with gentle boundaries, like translucent curtains that allow glimpses without exposing everything at once. This generous measure preserves enchantment and prevents suffocation, because the masculine in its essence is activated by what it cannot control, and it fades before the predictable and the anxious. By maintaining this dance of reveal and retreat, you position yourself not as a prisoner of another's affection, but as guardian of your own value. Note how in each of your words there is an invitation to his self-knowledge. You do not speak only for yourself. You speak to the collective unconscious that lives in every man. Each sentence carries echoes of ancestral myths, the maiden who awakens the hero's courage, the guardian of mystery who ignites the explorer's spirit. And by touching these layers, you do not need to convince with arguments. The touch happens in the soul, imperceptible to rational ears, but palpable in the slowed rhythm of the heartbeat. Remain in this state of full presence. Feel the echo of your own mystery and allow it to reverberate in the other. For love, when born from this place of symbolic wholeness, does not exhaust itself in moments of passion. It expands in complicity, attention, and mutual reverence. And thus, without conquest artifices, the true encounter happens. Many women fall in love trying to fill in the man what they cannot bear in themselves. Loneliness, devaluation, lack of meaning. By giving too much, she empties herself, and the man, instead of falling in love, moves away from the excess of fusion. To love is not to disappear into the other, but to offer oneself without losing oneself. True masculine love is born when he realizes that the woman does not need him to exist, but chooses him freely. In the quietness of the heart, you have already noticed a tremor of urgency, the impulse to stick pieces of yourself onto someone to find relief. It is like trying to plug a hole in the soul with another person's hands, believing that the fit fills the void. You feel this haste in your chest, don't you? A tightness that heralds an ancient fear, the fear of seeing yourself alone again. And for that reason, you offer your words, your attention, your presence, as if each gesture were the last chance to prove your worth. When love turns into a habit of occupation, it ceases to pulse and becomes almost an invisible obligation. You enter his life not to be discovered, but to occupy every corner where loneliness used to dwell. There is sweetness in this gesture, but also a danger. You confuse yourself with the remedy you were seeking. The other, upon seeing this intensity, may feel responsible for your healing, but is not prepared to bear this weight. Instead of feeling deep attraction, he feels increasing suffocation. You loved with everything, and in the rush to fill your own void, you offered even what you didn't have. Each smile, each lingering look bloomed less and tired more quickly. Conversations that were once light became glass domes where your anxiety resonated. He, in turn, retreated, not for lack of affection, but for fear of becoming the exclusive horizon for your inner world. You waited, and suddenly realized that intensity, when not born of wholeness, crushes. The inversion reveals itself there. You, who wanted to be welcomed, began to demand welcome in the subtext of every gesture. The bond became subtle bars, and love, a prison. It is not uncommon for the man to move away precisely when he feels he has become the only possible horizon for your world. He doesn't only want to love, he needs to breathe freedom. And then it is necessary to fall silent, to hear the voice that speaks behind the despair, that part of you that still echoes memories of abandonment. The child who was not seen at home begs for attention, and you, in the hurry to heal your pain, forget to calm her before running after external presence. That is why the turning point is simple yet challenging. Look inward before giving too much. Recognize that the source of care must spring within your own interior, not only in the heart of the other. This internal gesture, caring for yourself without guilt, welcoming the void without haste, transforms your presence. You cease to be urgency and become an invitation to the meeting of two whole souls, not to the rescue of a lost part. When you stop trying to fill his void and instead offer your conscious wholeness, the man feels the lightness of a choice, not the pressure of a destiny. Freedom, paradoxically, is the most direct path to union. It is like releasing a bird you loved so much, and upon seeing it return by its own will, realizing that true love is sustained by the spontaneity of return. You do not disappear from him. You remain, but without annulling yourself. Your worth is not measured by how many gestures you accumulate, but by the clarity of the love you carry for yourself. Feel this change in the rhythm of your chest. Slow down the pace of compulsive giving. Breathe the inner air before sharing it. Recognize that loneliness, lack of meaning, and the feeling of worthlessness are ancient echoes that deserve to be heard, but do not need to be transferred. When that internal voice finds compassion, the act of loving becomes gentle. The man who witnesses this gentleness does not feel called to save, but inspired to stay by your side. He sees in you the strength of someone who has already healed, not the urgency of someone who needs to be completed. And in that mutual recognition, a love is born that is not based on rescues, but on free choices. Because upon understanding the dangerous inversion, you discover that the greatest gift is not giving yourself unconditionally, but offering the other the best of yourself, that which only flourishes when you are enough on your own. There is a delicate silent language in the interval between what is revealed and what is kept. In the heart of the encounter, mystery acts as a secret pulse, a subtle presence that invites the other to explore their own inner echo. The masculine is activated by what it cannot control, and deactivated when everything becomes predictable and anxious. When you allow part of yourself to remain veiled, you create a space of reverence, as if placing a hand on a gentle flame, feeling the warmth without consuming it. This gesture, although simple, holds the power to transform a disinterested glance into a slow, deep, and genuine fascination. Imagine yourself walking down a silent corridor where the walls hold unfinished paintings. Each painting is a fragment of your psyche, memories, desires, dreams, and shadows. Instead of hanging all the paintings side by side, you choose to reveal one now, another later. This pace of presentation maps out an unexplored territory for the one who approaches. Each step he takes toward you is a step toward himself, mirroring the courage to enter a labyrinth that promises hidden treasures. Mystery is not an artifice. It is an invitation to the other's self-knowledge. When you interrupt the flow of explanations, replacing words with gestures, the body speaks a language older than reason. A lingering look, a brief silence before responding, the way you tilt your head to reveal a trace of curiosity. These are symbolic forms of communication that trigger deep circuits of the unconscious. They are like archetypal runes whose meanings the other has yet to learn to decipher, but feels in the subtle vibration that runs down the spine. They plant seeds of desire that germinate in the fertile soil of the unknown. It is not a game of power, but the establishment of a symbolic boundary that protects your essence from being exhausted. When everything is predictable, boredom settles like a cold fog. That is why mystery acts as a candid filter. It preserves the unique identity of who you are and at the same time makes the other move toward rediscovering themselves. This filter is the frontier that separates genuine intimacy from suffocating fusion. Those who cross it find there the invitation to a real encounter, sustained by mutual reverence. Amid this back and forth of revelation and retreat, love manifests as admiration. With each brief glimpse of your soul, he perceives something missing within himself, a space of silence, a quality of presence, a trace of authenticity. And this percept, once touched, does not dissolve by rational effort. A reverent curiosity arises. Who is this woman who does not expose herself completely, but leaves behind luminescent footprints along the path? This curiosity is the spark of passion that endures. Practicing mystery requires courage and self-trust. It is allowing the other to move toward a territory you internally master but externally control. It is like keeping a lantern lit inside a cave without illuminating every angle at once. Sometimes a flash is enough for the other to want to enter and illuminate the rest. This flame you choose to show, a fragment of a smile, a measured tone of voice, a story half told, works as a signal that says, "There is more here, follow the path." And he follows, drawn by the promise of discovery. Mystery is not distraction, it is reverence for one's own soul. When you stop explaining what you feel and begin to express it through gestures and silences, the symbolic takes the place of the word. It is in that space that the poetry of presence resides. He feels before understanding. He senses a different pulsation, a rhythm that departs from the routine cadence of superficial relationships. There, the space between words speaks louder than the words themselves. There, the attraction that does not fade in everyday life is born. Remain in this state of sacred presence. Breathe in the mystery as one inhales a rare perfume, letting it fill every corner of your being. Because a man falls in love with what he cannot decipher, but feels he must keep. And when, in each encounter, you reveal a little more of this symbolic territory, he realizes that enchantment is not the result of tricks, but of a soul that sustains itself in full existence. In that soil, love grows slowly, but with deep roots that withstand the weight of time. The feminine that awakens passion is not the one that asks for attention, but the one that invokes presence. She does not chase, she does not shout, she does not demand. She positions herself internally and becomes a magnetic field. This activates the archetype of the inner great mother, not in the maternal sense, but as a source of psychic nourishment. Faced with her, the man feels summoned, not to save, but to stay. To love, then, becomes an archetypal response, not a rational choice. There is a silent energy in the woman who invokes. She emanates a field of gentle gravity, which does not pressure but attracts. There is no echo of need in her gestures, only the full presence of one who has recognized herself as whole. Instead of casting appeals into the air, she remains centered, like a beacon that withstands storms, reminding the other that there is a safe place to dock. That place is not in her expressions of affection, it is in her profound integrity, in the calm conviction that, by being who she is, she deserves and will offer boundless love. In the silence between words, she draws symbolic boundaries, limits that do not isolate, but define the sacred territory of her soul. On that boundary, each breath becomes an invitation, a slight raise of an eyebrow, a look that does not seek an immediate response, a singular way of naming emotions. All of this acts as an invisible magnet. The masculine, accustomed to chasing clear signals, finds itself before the delicacy of one who does not plead but invokes. He perceives that there is something beyond a simple interaction. There is a call to the commitment of full presence, a call that does not manifest in demands, but in reverence. Activating the archetype of the inner great mother does not mean adopting a conventional maternal posture. It is about evoking the energy of care that does not suffocate, but nourishes. This woman offers not solutions, but listening. She does not take on the role of absolute protector. She is guardian of her own body and soul, and by doing so, she sustains those who approach. Faced with this silent force, the man abandons the impulse to fix and feels the genuine desire to stay, not out of pity, but out of admiration. He finds himself summoned to share a space where vulnerability is not weakness, but potency. You can perceive this dynamic in the subtlest details, the way she listens patiently without interrupting, the way her hands rest, creating a serene rhythm, the unique way of naming emotions with words that bring the body to the present and the soul to respect. These gestures are neither robotic nor theatrical. They arise from an internal confidence that does not need validation, and upon witnessing them, the other feels that, in that instant, all rehearsed scripts lose their strength. The real encounter takes place outside predictable maps, in the living territory of conscious feeling. There comes a moment when the masculine heart stops calculating and begins to respond. He realizes that there is no demand for results, but the gift of an emotional space that welcomes unconditionally. Loving ceases to be an act of performing tasks. It becomes the willingness to be. The choice is not made by adding up favors or measuring the intensity of demonstrations, but by archetypal attraction. The man chooses to stay because something in his ancestral psyche recognizes, in that woman, the creative force that nourishes and makes things flourish. It is like a river finding in a stable bed the possibility of flowing into the open sea. When the woman invokes presence, she reveals without words the promise of a love that never runs out. He will not always have to chase confirmations. He can relax in the confidence that if she is there tomorrow, it will be wholly, not out of need. In that implicit promise, love is freed from the anxiety of the immediate future and anchors itself in the profound present. Each gesture becomes a testament of mutual existence. I am here, I am real, and with you, I want to share what pulses within me. Remain in this state of interior summons. Breathe deeply and notice how, by recognizing yourself as a source of psychic nourishment, you transform each encounter into a celebration. The other, faced with this vibration, only feels the magnetism. He responds with a desire born of dignified admiration, not tacit obligation. And it is in that response that the encounter gains the dimension of right, a conscious offering of two souls who chose, without coercion, to sustain each other. When love becomes an archetypal response, it is freed from rational logics of exchange and reward. It exists in the just measure that presence is felt as a gift, not a debt. In that space, loving reveals itself as a sacred movement, where every shared moment renews the promise of care and recognition. The woman who does not ask for love but invokes is the guardian of that promise, a living symbol that true encounter is made in inner freedom and mutual reverence. Carl Jung said that true love is the meeting of two unconscious minds, ready to recognize each other. Clarissa Pinkola Estes speaks of the woman who does not ask to be loved, but dances with the invisible until it sees her. It is not a matter of seducing with formulas, but of embodying symbols that speak to the other's soul. The woman who awakens passion is not concerned with the effect she causes. She is anchored in the wholeness she emanates, and therefore she is not forgotten. Because she does not make someone fall in love, she provokes the other's return to himself. Love is not manufactured. It is neither the work of meticulously calculated details nor the result of carefully arranged artifices. It springs in the fertile soil of the soul, when two internal landscapes recognize each other and resonate like echoes of the same song. This song is made of symbols, gestures, silences, boundaries, subtle invitations that speak directly to the unconscious. It is there, in that deep ground, that genuine encounter germinates, not as a task to be accomplished, but as a mystery to be lived. You have journeyed, in this video, through the paths that keep us away from true love, the urgency to be chosen, the attempt to fill another's emptiness with one's own fragments, the illusion of external conquests. And you have also uncovered the opposite principle, the principle that reconnects us to internal wholeness. The woman who awakens does not please, but reveals, does not plead, but invokes, does not exhaust herself, but sustains herself in her own value. From this anchoring, masculine love does not arise by rational logic, but by archetypal impulse, an impulse that dwells in the unconscious and reveals itself as desire, care, and the presence. The masculine heart finds its way when it touches, in the woman, a symbolic bridge back to itself. When he feels in her gestures the invitation to access parts of himself that were previously blocked. It is at that point that Carl Jung reminds us, love is the meeting of two unconscious minds. It is not made by the sum of techniques, but by the mirroring of denied parts. And upon recognizing these internal contents reflected in the other, a bond arises that transcends the superficial and elevates to the sacred. Clarissa Pinkola Estes compliments, the woman who does not ask to be loved, but dances with the invisible until it sees her, symbolizes the soul that moves in fidelity to what is deep and essential. That dance does not occur to the rhythm of others' expectations, but to the beat of one's own inner centers, the archetypes that dance in our collective unconscious. When you move in that space, you cease to play predetermined roles and assume the unique choreography of your existence, the choreography that provokes an irresistible resonance in the other. There are no formulas or manuals when it comes to embodying symbols. There is only the courage to inhabit every part of yourself, lights and shadows, and to allow the other to see without defense that living totality. It is through honesty with your own being that you become, effortlessly, an indelible memory in his psyche. The effect you cause ceases to be a concern. You anchor yourself in the irradiating wholeness, and therefore you are not forgotten. Your presence resonates as a unique frequency, capable of summoning the masculine to an archetypal response. When a woman awakens passion in this way, she does not make someone fall in love. She provokes the other's return to himself. A man falls in love not with you as an object of desire, but with the symbolic image you embody in his unconscious, an image that speaks of the parts he himself denies or is unaware of, and by serving as a mirror. For that internal rediscovery, you facilitate not only a passionate encounter, but a journey of emotional healing and deep psychic reconnection. If something inside you opened with this video, write in the comments. Sometimes sharing also heals. And if you want to continue on this soul journey, we are here whenever you want to return.